Good afternoon, Pottstown, and welcome again to another segment of the making of Pottstown. And to my right, I think you probably recognize this face, Mr. Lou Hoffman, lifelong resident of Pottstown, well, for most of his life, but grew up just a block away from where we are. We're at the Chestnuts, we're at what was once the Chestnut Street Park. Now it is a mosaic garden that allows residents to grow different crops and varieties of flowers, and it's a community garden now, so it's morphed into something very productive for the residents of this area. Lou, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Quite welcome.
I see you came from your softball game.
Well, I changed the shirt because I didn't think the one I had on would have been appropriate.
Well, we know where we can find you with that color. So.
Yeah.
Lou, tell us a little bit about, you grew up right down the road here, right across the street, basically.
I grew up at 77 North Franklin Street, right across the street from the Hookie's Fire Company.
Yeah, there you go. So tell us a little bit about, your school, your formative years, etc., and your kind of relationship with Pottstown in your early life.
Well, elementary school, I went to the Wincroft School. From there, I went to the Perkiomen School. And from there I went to Drexel University and graduated from there in 1971.
1971. So what year you graduated high school in?
66.
66. So that makes you the young age of 76?
I'll be 77 in a little over a month.
So you've seen a lot of change in Pottstown, obviously.
And, yeah.
So what was your major in college?
Accounting.
Accounting. So that kind of leads us, it segues into your young adult life. You went into the car industry, the automobile industry, and I've known you for years that you were always at Williams, was Pontiac.
It was Williams, Pontiac, Nissan, GMC. Before that, when I got out of college, I went to work for Quigley Dodge.
Okay.
And
where your son worked.
Where my son worked, where my wife worked, where my brother-in-law worked.
Oh, family business, except it's not named Hoffman.
No. I worked there from 71 to 78, if I got out of college. Williams Pontiac in 1978 had a major fire. And I had gone to Perkiomen School with the owner of Williams, and he said, hey, I need a favor. I'd like to reconstruct everything. Because like back in those days, there were no there was no automation yet. It was coming out, but at Quigley's, everything was manually done with manual books. Williams had started to use some computer stuff, but they didn't like it. So I had to reconstruct all their books from the fire, and I was with Williams from 78 to the day it was sold in 2004 or 2006.
And that dealership's right on Route 100.
Yep, it's right now Patriot.
Patriot, okay. So the automobile industry, you just segued into an interesting point about how it went from, you do the books by hand and ledger books, etc., to everything's automated now. So can you talk a little bit about those changes, what you've seen in the automotive industry, especially locally?
Well, locally, it was funny. Where Wawa is on High Street in Pottstown, before there was Wawa, there was a Howard Johnson's there. Before there was a Howard Johnson's, there was an AMP there as well. And next to that was Edward James Olds.
Okay.
And there were some doctors involved with that. Dames Chevrolet was on High Street.
Ludwig Motors.
Ludwig Motors was
at Hanover.
Yep. You had Berman's had the Toyota up by where the community college is. It was called Stewart's Auto at that time.
Okay.
And then they moved down on the High Street. It was Tyson Cadillac or something like that, was in where Subway, where Pat's Beverages used to be.
Okay, and that little strip mall there.
Yep, and that was a car lot. And now...
There are no car lots left in Pottstown, is there? I can't think of one.
I cannot think of one in Pottstown. What happened was, as the years went by, the dealers, or not the dealers so much as the manufacturer, wanted the dealers to move to other areas and be together with other dealers.
Why is that? You see
'Cause-
that all the time. You
Yeah.
see a big conglomerate of dealerships on both sides of the highways. What's the purpose of that?
So that people can go from one to the other to another,
Okay.
and instead of driving, well, I got to go to the Chevy dealer in Bally,
Right.
or now I want to go to the Dodge dealer. Well, now you have that they're all basically together in one area.
That
and
didn't
that was-
create more of a competition, or
You would have thought it would,
right?
but this is what the manufacturers wanted. And that's what led to Williams being sold, because they wanted Nissan to be separate and in Limerick
Right.
rather than in
And
Boyertown.
so now you see in Limerick all the different car
They're
dealerships
all-
right in a
They're
row.
all there.
Right.
And like you have Fred Bean's and Quigley's side by
Boyertown.
side in Boyertown.
Right.
And you have Patriot out at the corner. And where Beaumont used to be is Tri-County's used car lot. It's
Okay.
still called Beaumont Motors, where the other Wawa is, and now CBS, was Hanover Olds, that Mike Rhodes and then Elliot Mankiewicz had involved.
So there were probably 6 or 7 dealerships in the borough of Pottstown at one time back in the 70s.
Absolutely.
Huh. That's interesting. So you kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I always kind of thought of you as a Pottstown guy, but when you said you went to Perkiomen School, I thought that was very interesting, because really that we didn't hear a lot of kids our age, or or a little bit older. You are a little bit older than me, that went to Perkiomen School. What led you there? Obviously your parents led you there, but also what were the activities that you were involved with there?
Well, what led me there, I think my parents wanted me to go there more so than I wanted to go there.
Right.
The nice luxury was there was always a group from Pottstown
Okay.
that drove, and always a senior would drive you.
Okay.
So, I mean, we got driven to school. I played in the soccer, basketball, baseball, tennis. It was easier to play a sport than have to go to PE.
Still is, I think,
Yeah,
in many regards.
and I just chuckled because if you played a sport there, you didn't have to do that stuff.
Right.
And
Well, that's been a big part of your life, obviously. I
Oh.
mean, I think most people recognize you at some type of sporting event, whether you're coaching or working. Tell us a little bit about your coaching career, because I know you coached for many years at St. Pius and Phoenixville, and now you're at Potts Grove. Give us a little kind of thumbnail sketch of your career in coaching, and specifically basketball, right?
Well, yeah. Basketball has a very soft spot in my heart because I love it. I'm a Big Five junkie,
Okay.
and college more so than pros, but that's neither here nor there. Randy Reber, who was a longtime coach at Pius, and I are best friends.
Okay.
And he said whenever I got tired of playing in leagues, I could, I'd come and help out. So at the ripe old age of about 47, I had had enough, and I said, yeah, I'll start. And I started coming to the practices and stuff, and 18 years later, I guess, when Pius closed, and we knew we weren't going to get the Poach on Pole job for obvious reasons.
That's for another show.
That's another show. That's a good show on its own. He got the Phoenixville job, and I went down for 4 years.
So you coached all boys basketball,
Boys
never
basketball.
girls, right?
Never girls.
Never girls. So you spent 18 years coaching basketball at both.
No, 18 with the Pius,
Oh, okay.
and then 4 years at Phoenixville.
At Phoenixville.
And we rebuilt that program.
Mm-hmm. Well, you rebuilt really both of them.
Well, Pius
Was good. I
Pius
mean,
was
that's-
good. But we had a great run. I mean, you make the Eastern Finals 2 years in a row, and you know, like, you
Some
don't.
very, very good teams.
Yeah. Maybe.
So you never lost your connection here with guys. I mean,
Oh.
you know, you talked a little bit. I kind of want to, you know, when you said community, when you gave up playing in the community leagues, I mean, you were a fixture in every. I mean, I think of basketball and softball. If there was a league in this area, whenever you showed up, me, when I would come home from college, you were there.
Yeah.
You played in softball.
I played in every. At one time, there was about 16 teams in the Boyertown League, 16 teams in Pottstown, 16 teams in Norco.
And did they all stay in their communities, or did they play
Boyer-
one another?
No, they stayed within their leagues. Paulie Griesmer once tried to have a league championship, but that
With
didn't.
Pottstown and Boyertown?
Pottstown, Boyertown, Norco, Linfield,
Linfield.
and it never really came to
So
fruition.
that was what years? Like for the prime.
Prime softball around here would have been the mid 70s to mid 90s and stuff.
Right.
Because I was still playing in the Norco League when Tom Schatt came to me. It was 1997. No, it was going to be 1998 because I was 49 turning 50 that July in 98. He says, hey, I'm going to a senior tournament. You want to go? I went everywhere to play. Sir, why not? So I went to Laurel, Maryland to play my first senior tournament.
Really? At age 49?
49 and all but 50. And now turning 77, I'm still playing.
So where does a gentleman of your age play at 77? Where is there? I would like to see this league.
Well, believe it or not, on Mondays and Wednesdays, I play at Buster Road Park in Talaminson with a group where you have to be at least 60 to play. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I play in the Montgomery County Senior Softball League in Hatfield.
Okay.
You have to be 60 to play there. On Fridays, I play on a travel league team that plays in either Lyons, Buster Road Park, Tate's Park in Allentown, or up in Easton.
Wow.
And most of the players on those teams are travel players.
And how many guys are playing? Like, what's the? I think it's incredible.
There's hundreds.
Really?
I mean, it's amazing. We had a team that played in a Bucks County League, and Channel 6 did a little piece on us for the art of aging.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've played on some really good teams. I've been honored with various awards and stuff, which, you know, you can't get unless you played on good teams.
Right. So in the heyday, back in the mid 80s, let's say, you said 16 teams in Pottstown, 16 in Boyertown, Linfield, Norco. So how many people? You know? And it was all men's.
Oh, it was all men's. But now,
so
like,
how many guys would that encompass altogether?
well, like some of us played in a couple in
Right,
various
right,
leagues.
Right.
And you know, like say 12 guys on a team.
That's an incredible amount of
And
bodies.
Yeah, and now it's died out.
Right.
They have reborn the Linfield League. There's 4 teams trying to play down there.
Okay.
On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the kids. But all the older people, that, you know, like, I don't want to say it this way, but a lot of the older, better people have kept playing and
Right.
went to senior softball.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, softball's always been one part, and that's been very prevalent in your life. How about the community basketball? Because, I mean, you walk into an elementary school gym on a Saturday morning, Lou Hoffman's there. You go to, you know, at an evening in an elementary school anywhere, Lou Hoffman's there. And they're all Pottstown for the most part, Pottstown, Spring City, Boyertown.
We've been just dumb luck to hook up with the right people and stuff. Around here, if you were able to play, you had a little bit of a reputation.
Right.
Hey, come here and play. Like Randy Reber and I would go out to Pottstown on Thursday nights for their open gyms. And, you know, like, guys would look at us, oh, yeah, well, okay, you're on this team. So we'd win a couple games. You know, we want them two guys.
Right, right.
Same way with Rupert with the open gyms that they had. We were there, and that evolved into
Quite a few things.
yes. When you were the Parks and Rec director.
Right, that's exactly right. You didn't want me showing up some mornings.
Or by afternoon, no. But
so what are some of those highlights? What are, in both softball and basketball, do you kind of remember any like one or two specific, you know, whatever, championship games or just games in general with, you know, I mean, I'm sure you could name drop a few pretty local legends that played and that were very good players.
well, Doug Keeler, who I played
Still
basketball,
plays pickleball.
who I played basketball with and softball. I played softball with him for close to 40 years,
Wow.
and we were on the same teams. I would not have gotten hooked on basketball so much if it hadn't been for Bill Missimer, Barry Trait,
Yep.
and those people. Eddie Laws
Right.
as
Eddie.
well.
Yep.
I used to-
PIAA official.
I used to, as a child, walk over to the YMCA at King and Evans Street,
Oh yes, yes.
and that was
Where I
where
learned to swim.
that's where I got my first taste of playing in a league or stuff. I watched those guys play. Got a kick out of Clapper White walking up the alley to the Y, you know, to the Y, carrying his own weights because
Yep.
they didn't have enough weights for him.
That's Clapper White.
Uh,
That is a legendary name in this town.
and like when I would tell people he played the organ in church, they would go, "Yeah, right, he
Yes.
plays the organ." I said, "He does," and if you don't believe him, don't
Don't ask him.
don't ask him. I mean, Bart Stelz had a team. Terry Embody had a team.
All the gas stations.
The gas
service
stations, yeah. There was like a city league in Pottstown, a church league.
All extremely competitive.
Oh, absolutely. Heck, when they started playing, you were allowed to bunt.
Oh yeah?
That didn't last long.
No.
Because
That's amazing.
most of the time, whoever the catcher was not somebody you wanted to have.
So out of all those experiences, you know, what has that done for you as far as, you know, your connection to town? I mean, obviously the friendships and the competitive games and things usually make people very close to one another.
You make all kinds of friendships that last, I think, through sports.
Right.
Nothing against businesses, but that's a job where sports is something you like to do.
Universal.
Yep. And friendships, they just last.
We had an interview with Dave Ridenauer last year, and he kind of echoed the same sentiments as far as you didn't have to go to a league, or you went out to a playground and you just met anybody that was there. Everybody had the same purpose, to play.
Yep.
And it didn't matter, you know, your socioeconomic level, where you lived. It was, do you want to play? And that was really the genesis of friendships.
Right behind us here, Eddie Dobry lived on
Okay.
King Street, and he had a basketball backboard. There was many a good game there. And then if you really wanted a good laugh, you'd go up to Brunish's behind the store, and there was a hoop back there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Old Danny and Bobby.
Danny and Bobby, and you know, like, that's how you got to, you know, like, meet the people.
Right.
Pete Christ and I went to the Ricketts Center a lot of times, and I'm friends with the Lacey's and
Sure.
Ricketts's, and
Sports breaks down every barrier
it's-
imaginable.
the best thing that ever.
Absolutely. Were you involved in any other activities, or was it really tunnel vision with sports? And that's okay. I mean,
I'm going to say sports because
Sure.
I've also played volleyball, bowling,
right.
you know, like all that kind of good stuff.
Isn't that what the older generation does now? Not
We used to
anymore.
play. I used to play with Rick and Roger Eppenheimer. We used to get the Pottsgrove Middle School on Wednesday nights. Well, we would play 7 to 9, and then I would bowl at the J Lanes after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there was many a night I was a little late. I mean, we had connection at the middle school with Dave Ward and
Right, right.
the teachers, and that was
Early mornings?
no, that was Tuesdays.
Okay. That went on for many years as well.
Yes.
Yes. So you grew up here. You grew up like within it, footsteps of where we are.
Yep.
Some of these buildings around here, I heard you and Gus kind of talking about this was this place. So what are some of the places here? What were they, and how has this neighborhood changed? And I think it's just really a microcosm of all of Pottstown. Things come and go, and
Well,
buildings are repurposed, because really there's not been a lot of demolition in Pottstown. They've just changed hands and grown into different.
That's very true. Where most of the houses were either like single
Right.
family dwellings that over the years have turned into apartment buildings.
Right.
That's the case of like my old house is an apartments.
Okay.
Some of the areas they have kept up very nicely, some have not.
Right.
This happens anywhere.
Sure. It's any city.
But I mean, Pottstown growing up was a great little town to grow up in.
Yep. You remember any events that happened in your lifetime that were very much defining throughout the town? I know you mentioned one earlier, the 1972, flood of Agnes.
Well, I was living on 5th Street at that time,
Okay.
and they would put boats in the water at 3rd and York. That was 2 blocks from my house. That's how far the water came up.
Wow.
The apartments on Manatoni and
Beach.
It was up not to the first floor. It was up to the 2nd floor.
Wow.
And on High Street, it was all the way up, basically past York Street almost. So I mean, it was amazing.
And many of those businesses that are down there now they were underwater, obviously, but also they've been changed over as well.
Yeah, I mean, where the Elks is, I mean, that was there. That's still there. I can't remember there was a club across the street from where Dempsey's Diner was.
Right, right.
Then there was another building and a gas station, then a brick building. That's all I can remember about that.
Right.
But Kiss's Cycle was up there.
Oh yeah, Frank Kiss.
Stewart had their car lot, but after Agnes, the cars were somewhere else.
Did cars actually float away?
I believe so. I mean, they
Wow.
lost everything.
Incredible. Anything else that you can remember as? Well, you talked about the
In
1976.
1976, the bicentennial celebration, the wagon train came through, and they actually spent the night in Sailor's pasture behind the Lower Pottsgrove Police Station now.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, the old Sailor Farm.
Yep.
Well, they were wagons, right?
Yep.
They were horse and buggy and
Horse and buggies.
carriages. And do you remember how many there were?
I don't. There was a lot.
There were. I kind of remember it myself, but I remember it was a big deal.
It was.
And they were going to Philadelphia, right?
Yep.
Huh. So we talked a little bit about the automotive. We talked about the history here. Now you're working over at Pottsgrove, and again, you can't get enough of sports. And tell us a little bit about what you're doing there. And
when Randy and I were done at Phoenixville, not by our choice, I think you were the AD.
I might have been.
You might have been the AD that said, "Hey, I got some sports that you could work," and it started evolving from there. And then when Steve replaced you, Steve and I had gone back to the point where he played for a team in the Linfield League when I was still playing down there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a small world of athletics.
Yeah. And I thought, who is this nut that keeps running from first to third and diving head first into third base? And
That sounds familiar.
yeah.
It sounds like.
him.
Yep.
And then he said, well, how about if you work some other sports? So I now I basically am there for every sport as like a game manager and stuff. And I love it because I really wasn't ready to give up on coaching.
Right.
But at least this way I have involvement and I can help kids. I can tell them some things.
You do. People like, especially students and athletes, they like familiarity and they like to see the same faces, and you have the ability to talk to them, and everybody has a bad game here and there, but a friendly face goes a long way.
Absolutely. And like the referees, like usually for football games I have all the referees for football, and like I know all them. And basketball, the older ones from when I was still coaching.
There's a few of them left.
Yeah, there are.
Not too many though. They've kind of passed the torch, so to speak.
Well, the one I always get a kick out of is Dave Hackey.
Oh, Mike Hackey.
Mike Hackey.
Mike Hackey.
His son's Dave, I think.
Maybe, yes.
Because they did a game.
Mike Hackey's been around for.
He's been around.
Yes.
And I've seen.
Many of those guys used to be former postal workers.
Yes.
Because they would be done their mail routes relatively early, and Tommy Brady was a postal supervisor, and he would just recruit guys that were on his routes, and I always said to those guys, it was like this is the post office's second career, is officiating.
Well, I'll tell you what, for an official, it's a nice racket to get into. I mean, for me, I like it because, in my mind, I'm not your basic 77-year-old.
No, you're not.
And I think that has helped me.
Sure.
Because too many times when an older person gets done doing something, they just sit down and don't do anything. All of a sudden, oh, wait, what do you mean he died? Yeah, he just died. Okay.
Right.
So
So you doing anything else to keep busy? I mean, now that you have, well, it sounds like you have softball 4 days a week, and it's Pottsgrove about 3 or 4 times a week. Is there anything else that you can fit into your schedule? What about your wife and your family? Do they factor in at all?
Yes. I've been married since 1969.
Wow.
I have 2 boys. One, Brett, works at Quigley Dodge. He has 2 kids, and now I have a great granddog there. So, because my granddaughter wanted a dog, and my other son lives in Riverview, Florida. He was a Pottsgrove. They were all Pottsgrove grads.
Right.
My younger son became a pretty good soccer player and a pretty good soccer coach.
Very good soccer player.
And his last gig was at the IMG Academy, and COVID, he retired from that, and now he's working for it's Olive Garden, but I forget what company owns it. But, but that's what he's doing now.
Anything else you want to add? Tell the viewers about anything that you can remember that was unique to this place, because there's a lot of unique aspects of Pottstown that oftentimes people from Pottstown remember, but other people from other areas have no idea.
Well, it's funny. People don't realize at one time there were 2 movie theaters in Pottstown. There was the Strand at Charlotte and High, and the Hippodrome, that was where the beer garden is now.
The alley.
Yeah, the alley. And Van Buskirk's was uptown. I mean, there was Levitt's Furniture was uptown. You had Woolworths, McCrory's, J something Newberry's,
JJ Newberry.
And then the favorite store of all for anybody in Pottstown, Bechtel's Sporting Goods. Everybody went to Bechtel's.
Yep.
And if you didn't find what you wanted there, they would
find it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, mush was great. People don't realize that Marlon Strohacker was in there for years.
And his wife.
Yeah. And I mean, I swam as well, so like I knew Janice and Jill, and occasionally they would go from Sunnybrook over to Countryside and swim when I managed that team.
That might have been a little rule infraction there, but
it might have been a small one.
Yeah, especially since they'd win 4 events. But who's counting?
They weren't in the
Who's
same
counting
league.
these
Yeah,
days?
they weren't in the same league that
That's
we were
right.
in.
So
But-
anything else on this street here? Right behind us is actually one of the oldest Pottstown elementary schools. There's a sign up there that says public school, and I'm not sure what it says underneath that, but that was, you don't remember that. That was an auto parts supply
That
store.
was not auto parts. In fact, between those two buildings as kids, we would invent games to play. Kick football over the wires and stuff. Or we'd play ball out in the Empire Ladder Fire Company's parking lot, just sometimes just to get yelled at.
And there was a funeral home?
There was, where Houck Funeral Home today is out on Charlotte,
Charlotte and Grace.
Charlotte and Grace. Was down here at the corner of Washington and Chestnut, right across the street from the old Levin Goods Dairy.
Oh, okay, okay.
And where Reggie Brooks had his gas station, automotive store down here at Franklin, that was a church, and we used to have, Joe Mosley would come and play football with us. Now he was a lot bigger and older than most of
He's
us,
still a pretty big man.
and he's still big, but he would come and we'd play tackle football down there. And the American Legion was right across the street at that time. Now it's a church cluster.
Okay.
And AMP was the food store that down
Right,
there. It was a local
right.
grocery store. You could walk, get your groceries. There was a little luncheonette at Evans and Chestnut, where you'd go down in the summertime, get a water ice or
Yep.
ice in the container. They'd put some liquid
Syrup in it.
Yep.
Sugar, liquid sugar.
You were good to go for another.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, as a kid, you'd come out and after breakfast, play. You'd hear mothers yelling for you or whatever, come in at lunchtime. You'd go back out. You'd play till it was dinner time.
Yep.
And then you'd go back out again after dinner.
Yep.
We didn't have, we didn't practice our thumbs with anything.
No.
And you didn't have to have an organized activity
Right.
to have a good time.
Yep.
Too many things today, the kids, oh, if it's not organized, I'm not doing it.
Right. Right. Although I'm starting to see a little bit of a kind of a reversal trend of that. I do see more and more kids out playing now than I have in past years, which is, you know,
That's a good
it's
thing.
nice to see.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Lou, anything else that, you know, you can think of that we missed or didn't really expound on? When's your next softball game?
Tomorrow.
And how many games do you play a year?
200 to 250.
How many 77 plus guys are playing?
Hundreds.
That's incredible.
I'll be in Salem, Virginia next week to play with a 70 team. In October, though, our entire team is going up to 75 because then we're all eligible to play.
Wow. No more basketball. No
Well,
more of that behind the back headshot.
no, I still got it.
Okay, that's good to hear.
I can't shoot it as far.
and can't run as fast.
Well, I have no meniscus in my right knee, and I got hurt down in Virginia Beach 2 years ago, and I had that removed. And it keeps me from
Right.
doing a lot of the things I want to do,
Sure.
but I don't want to get knee replacements yet.
Nope, I hear
Too
you.
young.
Too young. I like that. Well, Lou, thank you. You're inspiration to many of us. I know for me personally, you definitely are. But
Well, heck yeah, you played in one of the snowball tournaments I
did.
went
That
to.
was a fun tournament. That was where you'd run out in the outfield and time your slide right on the ice and hope the ball came into your glove. That was a
Yeah.
pretty good tournament.
That was
fun.
an experience, a one-time experience.
Yes, a chilly one at that.
It had everything.
Yes. But you got warmed up after games then.
Yeah. The North Penn Rod and Gun Club did a fine job.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you. Appreciate having you on. And again, thank you once again. And I hope you enjoyed this this episode of the history of Pottstown and the making of Pottstown. And until next time, thank you.